Over 90% of people think a quiet industrial yard is one of the best places a truck driver can spend the night. Experienced truckers think the exact opposite, and for good reasons. Especially the last one will shock you. Forget the reasons most of you assume already, like darkness, the absence of a restaurant, or loneliness. It's what happens after that gate shuts, when things happen that don't happen anywhere else on the map. Start with why he's there at all. Because an industrial park isn't a preference, it's a fallback. A driver drops a trailer at a distribution center, and his delivery appointment isn't until 7 the next morning. Driving 40 minutes to the nearest truck stop and back burns 2 hours off his 11-hour clock, hours he never gets back. So he does the math, and the math says stay right there, next to the loading dock, behind a fence that's locked from the outside, the second the last shift clocks out. At first, that looks like the smart move. Quiet lot, no other trucks circling for a spot at 3 in the morning. Compared to a packed truck stop, it almost looks like an upgrade. But something had to give. Because industrial parks were never built with a driver's night in mind. They were built solely to move freight in and out during business hours. Once that last shift leaves at 6, the lights go off. Around 60% of private distribution yards run on motion-triggered security lighting instead of constant lighting, which means the lot goes fully dark until a sensor catches movement, then floods white for exactly 90 seconds before dropping back to black. Sleep happens in short bursts of pitch, dark, and sudden daylight. Most drivers will tell you that's worse than steady noise. For drivers trying to stay on a legal sleep schedule, those interruptions matter a lot. Federal hours of service rules don't stop because the warehouse lights keep switching on. A driver still needs enough rest to handle an 80,000-pound truck the next day safely. Every unexpected light or diesel engine starting chips away at that recovery. By sunrise, it will feel like they've barely slept at all, even if they technically spent 8 hours parked. And then there's the gate itself. Some yards run on an automated closing schedule tied to a keypad code that only warehouse staff carry. A driver pulls in at 9 thinking he's parked for the night, not realizing the gate seals itself an hour later. If something goes wrong at 2 in the morning, a medical issue, an electrical fire under the hood, there's no way out until a person with the code arrives for the morning shift. In 2019, a trucking safety report documented drivers trapped behind locked private gates for up to 9 hours with zero access to emergency services. 9 hours. Behind a fence he can see straight through, but can't get past. That's a design flaw nobody accounted for. Something you wouldn't expect comes next. Picture it. You're parked against the loading dock, engine off, curtain closed, finally drifting towards sleep around midnight. Then at 2:40 in the morning, a reefer unit 2 spots over kicks on with a diesel cough loud enough to rattle your window. Not because anyone's arriving, because the warehouse runs a night crew. And a night crew means forklifts beeping in reverse, pallet jacks slamming concrete, and floodlights sweeping your windshield every time a trailer gets repositioned. You're not parked at a truck stop where the chaos is at least spread out. You're parked inside somebody else's factory floor, and their shift doesn't care that yours just ended. That's the sound problem. The bigger one is who's walking around out there. Because a truck stop, for all its flaws, has a fence around the whole property, cameras at the pumps, and a clerk behind a counter 50 feet away. An industrial lot has none of that for the driver. Its security exists to protect the warehouse's inventory, not the man sleeping on it. If strangers walk the fence line at 3 a.m., there's no front desk to call. Cargo theft costs the freight industry over $130 million a year in the U.S. alone, and unsecured private lots account for a disproportionate share of it. A driver isn't just cut off from services out there. He's cut off from anyone who'd notice if something happened to him. Isolation changes truckers. Instead of leaving the curtain slightly open for airflow, they'll keep every shade closed. Even simple things like taking out the trash or checking the trailer seals become something they postpone until daylight. It's not panic, it's a habit. Drivers who've spent years on the road learn that the fewer reasons they give someone to notice they're alone, the better they sleep. But that's still just the setup. Now comes the part most drivers never plan for, because the moment the sun comes up, the yard doesn't wake up gently. It wakes up all at once. At exactly 5:45, the first shift trucks start rolling in, and every one of them needs the same 40 feet of maneuvering room the sleeping driver's rig is currently sitting on. Yard jockeys, whose entire job is repositioning trailers inside the lot, start moving trucks the second the gate opens, whether or not the person inside is awake. More than one driver has described waking up to his own trailer being hitched and pulled by a yard jockey who never checked whether someone was still in the bunk. That's not rare. That's routine, on a schedule the driver never agreed to. So how do the ones who've done this for years actually survive it? They stop treating industrial parks as a place to sleep and start treating them as a place to wait. Veteran drivers park facing the exit every single time, no exceptions, because the 10 seconds it takes to turn around instead of backing in can be the difference between leaving on his own schedule and getting boxed in by 3 other trailers. They call ahead and confirm the gate code and the closing hour before they ever shut the engine off, because finding that out at 2 in the morning is too late. Some carry a motion-triggered alarm clipped near the door, not for the alarm clock function, for the early warning, because a knock that shouldn't be there at 3 a.m. is a different kind of wake-up call than a phone alarm. And here's the part that surprises people. Ask an experienced driver whether he would rather sleep at a loud, crowded truck stop or a silent, empty industrial lot, and most of them pick the truck stop. Not because the industrial park is worse on paper, it's quieter, it's cleaner, there's no line for a shower. It's worse because at a truck stop, if something goes wrong, there are 200 other drivers who will notice. In an industrial park, there is nobody. The silence that looked like an upgrade turns out to be the exact thing drivers don't trust. So the next time you drive past a distribution center at midnight and see a single truck parked by the fence, dark, still, seemingly the quietest spot on the whole route, remember what is actually happening inside it. A driver checked the gate code, backed in facing the exit, and closed his eyes hoping the next sound he hears is his own alarm, and not a forklift, a stranger, or a yard jockey who didn't know he was there.